She walked out of a courtroom and into a vineyard, then said "I do" to a man the internet swore was just a friend. Christine Baumgartner's Santa in his wedding to financier Josh Connor wasn't loud. It was deliberate. Dresses, guest list, reactions. Let's go inside the ceremony that turned a scandal into a second chance. Christine Baumgartner didn't just turn the page. She closed the book, walked into the Santa Inez sunset, and started a whole new one. After a headline-making split from Kevin Costner, the former model and designer just said, "I do," to financier Josh Connor in a romantic Santa Barbara ceremony that felt like a movie ending rewritten in real time. But this isn't just a wedding. It's a reset. It's closure. And it's the kind of twist that had the whole town whispering long before the vows were even rehearsed. So how did a divorce that dominated the tabloids transform into a ranch-side fairy tale, complete with couture gowns, blended families, and a love story that started closer to home than anyone realized? Let's talk about it. It started with a storm, literally. A nearly empty beach, clouds rolling in, and a proposal that friends say felt cinematic. That moment was months in the making, and years in the shadows of a bigger name. Because Christine's life wasn't just her own for a long time. It belonged to the public, to the gossip columns, to court filings and custody headlines. And then suddenly, one Saturday in October, it was hers again. Santa Inez Ranch. Soft, gold evening light. A guest list that was intimate but powerful. 2 vows, 2 rings, 2 families. And one promise to build something that wasn't supposed to be perfect, just honest. But this was only the beginning. The truth is, Christine had to walk through flames to get here. 18 years with a Hollywood legend ended with lawyers, deadlines, and cameras waiting at the gates. The split wasn't quiet. It was a storm of numbers and narratives. Who gets the house? Who pays how much? Who moves out when? She left the estate. She rebuilt. And somewhere between packing boxes and courtroom schedules, she found the one thing no one expected: calm. That's the part the headlines never captured. The day the noise lowered. The day she took a deep breath and decided to be more than someone's ex. But healing alone is one kind of brave. Letting yourself love again? That's another. And that's where Josh entered the picture. On paper, Josh is easy to define. Financier, father, low-profile Santa Barbara through and through. In real life, he's the kind of presence you feel more than you see. Not a red carpet regular, not a quote machine, not a man addicted to attention. He moves softly. He prefers private to public, steady to flashy, and family over everything. Friends say he was around long before the whispers. A familiar face in a shared orbit. That's why the early rumors felt different. Less sudden, more inevitable. He was the bridge between chaos and calm, the still point when everything spun, and then came the sightings, the walks, the quiet dinners, the low-key weekends. Nothing dramatic, no big reveals. Just a cadence, a rhythm, a routine that felt, for lack of a better word, normal. When the beach proposal happened, no one close to them was surprised. If anything, they were relieved. Because it meant the timeline wasn't just rumors. It was real, and it was earned. But the proposal was only a chapter. The wedding was the story. October 18th. Late afternoon light melting over the hills. Wooden chairs and even rows. Wildflowers that looked like they'd grown there on their own. A band that understood when to stay quiet and when to let the strings swell. Nothing overproduced. Nothing loud. Just intentional. Christine's first look set the tone. A Mira Zwillinger gown hand-embroidered with delicate flowers. The kind of dress that whispers rather than shouts. It didn't wear her. She wore it, gracefully, with a posture that said more than words could. Later, she changed into a strapless satin Leahy-Hod dress for the reception. It was classic, almost old Hollywood in its simplicity, like a second act that knew exactly who it was. Josh chose a black tux, timeless, sharp, almost ceremonial. Not trying to reinvent the wheel, just keeping it rolling. Their kids stood nearby, not as spectators, but as witnesses, the beating heart of the day. About 100 guests, mostly people who know how to respect a moment, not steal it. Toasts that sounded like journal entries, laughs that carried to the oak trees. The kind of night where people linger because they don't want to break the spell. But a wedding isn't just a mood board, it's a message. And this one said, "We're done explaining. We're done defending. We're choosing us." And what happened next? Well, it explained everything that came before. There were no grand statements from Kevin, no messy posts, no late-night quotes. Just the posture of a man who's learned the high cost of public reactions. He's been linked to director Kelly Noonan Gores, focused on work, on his own recentering. And in quieter interviews, he's reflected on fatherhood with the kind of honesty that lands. Keep talking, keep coaching, keep showing up. That's what this really comes down to. Showing up. It's what Christine did. It's what Josh did. It's what Kevin is doing in his own way. And for the kids, that consistency matters more than any headline. It says, grown-ups can have complicated lives and still be steady, which is probably why the loudest commentary didn't come from any of the adults at all. It came from the seats where the kids stood, watching, absorbing, redefining what after can look like. And yet, online, the noise was impossible to ignore. The internet did what the internet does, divided itself. Half the comments read like a standing ovation. She looks radiant. She deserves happiness. This is her era. The other half peered at the timeline with raised eyebrows. Too soon? Wasn't he a family friend? Did this start earlier? It's the dance of modern celebrity. Every moment scored by people who weren't in the room. But let's separate fact from feeling. What's confirmed is simple. A relationship that began as friendship, deepened post-divorce, and culminated in vows on an October evening. What's unverified is the speculation about overlaps and origins. Reports claimed things long before there was proof. Rumors spun faster than the people involved. And yet, the couple never auditioned for that narrative. They let the day speak for them, and it did. Gently, decisively, beautifully. Still, the question remained. What does a second chance at love look like when the whole world watched your first one fall apart? Weddings are made of micro-decisions. The guest count capped around 100. The floral palette that looked like spring kept a secret for fall. The music cues that avoided the obvious anthems. A second dress that wasn't screaming, just singing. Even the schedule. No marathon timeline, no rush. Moments built on moments. Whispered congratulations. Quiet, private prayers. And then, during the toasts, something shifted. Stories about patience, about timing, about how love sometimes waits in the edges of your life until you're brave enough to look straight at it. People didn't cry because the stories were sad. They cried because the stories were true. But the best part of the night didn't need a microphone. The story landed because a lot of people know what it means to start over. Without the gowns, without the ranch, without the headlines. They know the ache of an ending and the tentative courage of a beginning. Christine's wedding gave that feeling a shape. It said, you can do this. Not because it's easy, because it's time. And on a separate note, it challenged an idea we love to hold, that the first story is the forever one. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. What matters is the honesty to admit when a chapter is done, and the humility to write the next one differently. Still, a few questions hung in the air. Messy, human, necessary. Tomorrow's feed will crown a new headline. That's fine. That's the cycle. But the people who were there won't forget the way the air felt when the sun went down over the ranch. They won't forget the quiet, the sincerity, the relief. They won't forget a bride who looked like herself, not a performance of herself. They won't forget a groom who seemed more focused on the life ahead than the lens in front of him. And we won't forget what it represented. Not just the end of a chapter, but the start of a story where love doesn't need permission to be possible again. Christine Baumgartner walked into a courthouse as a symbol and walked out of a vineyard as a person. That's the arc. That's the evolution. Not pity, not revenge, just choice. She didn't win a narrative. She reclaimed a life. She stood in front of people who mattered, in a place that felt like hers, wearing a dress that told the truth. Softer now, but stronger. And Josh? He didn't rescue her. He met her halfway with steadiness. With kids at their sides and history behind them. With a future that isn't perfect, but is theirs. So here's the real takeaway. Sometimes the loudest closure is a quiet I do. Because in the end, after all the filings and the footage, after the speculation and the sighs, after the first chapter and all its echoes, what remains is simple. 2 hands, 2 vows. 2 families choosing to be one, and a ranch in Santa Barbara where a second chance didn't pretend to be the first, it chose to be better. What do you think? Was this the ending they deserved, or the beginning they needed? Either way, it's a reminder that after the storm, the sky doesn't apologize for clearing. It just does. And if you look closely, you can see what starts growing the second the rain stops.